Hello, I'm Elizabeth de Brito, and this is Elizabeth's Exposé on Equality, the series where I call out the realities about inequality, racism, sexism, how they manifest and play out, speaking from my lived experience. If that sounds like your cup of tea, please click the subscribe button to be notified of future episodes published weekly on Thursdays. Now, last week I broke down my least favourite phrase in the English language right now, the phrase "why don't you?", why it's gatekeeping and why it can lead to gatekeeping and why it's problematic and the various things involved with that. So today we're discussing all the reasons why I don't, all the reasons why we don't, why we didn't. Like when gatekeepers say, "why don't you?", the reasons why I don't or why I didn't is because I was mentally, physically, psychologically fucking exhausted. I felt like I had to keep going every waking hour of the day. I kept getting people tell me, well, I work 16 hours a day, I only take one day off a week. Well, applying for funding takes absolutely hours, but it's necessary. So I'm getting all these constant messages telling me that if I just did more, I'd achieve success. And I believe them. For 4 years, I got up at 6, worked on the Daffodil Perspective, worked on classical music for an hour or two, went to my day job, worked there half the day, came back, worked on classical music and the DPs and more until 9, watched TV, then went to bed, repeat. And then on weekends, I would devote myself to classical music and the DP again. And I tried to work non-stop, but I became so tired all the time, I just vegged out in front of the TV. When I wasn't working, I just watched TV. I didn't have enough energy to do anything else. And obviously, if I did, I wasn't devoting my whole life to my career in classical music. Therefore, I wasn't trying hard enough. So, I've already said about one issue that comes up for me here. So, the few issues that come up for me here. Firstly, it's ignoring the reality of our situations. When we're already doing absolutely everything we can in the time available to us, we think we are. We're not just writers or researchers or artists. We're expected to market ourselves on social media, send out newsletters, design websites, create content for our websites, network with industry people, send out emails, promote ourselves, keep abreast of all industry news, and about 100 other things. And for those of us who can't afford people to do it for us, like social media marketers or promoters or website designers or copywriters or assistants, we're doing it all ourselves on top of creating the best actual work we can. So, because that's the easy bit of writing or painting or researching or whatever. That's comparatively easy because that's what we're good at, All this other stuff, it might take a bit longer than others because we don't necessarily possess any affinity for it. And so we're doing that on top of actually consistently improving our own craft, constantly working to draw attention to the art we're creating, or the work we're creating. Because this isn't in every field, it's not just arts, but obviously, I've been working in classical music, so that's coming from my lived experience. Then, on top of that, for those of us who are championing equity and disparity, we're kind of coerced. It feels like we're coerced in challenging all the inequity and disparity in our industries. I know I felt forced and compelled to call out all the injustice, challenge it, email people, attempt conversations, shine a light, carry out analysis. Surviving as an activist is an entire separate episode, which I will go into some other time. But for today, I'm just saying it's a lot of further work. So it's really unfair to emotionally blackmail us into feeling like we're not doing enough. We're already killing ourselves to do our work. We don't need a guilt trip from people able to survive and successfully navigate the industry. So that's the first issue. Secondly, the gatekeepers turning around the responsibility on me, on us. All these messages, all these people saying it's my fault that I'm not successful enough. It's my fault alone that I'm not getting anywhere in my career. So gatekeepers putting the entire blame on me and absolves themselves and society of any responsibility for any guilt whatsoever for keeping the gates firmly locked upon me and other marginalised people. Because again, not about me. This is about everybody, right? And that's a big burden to place on any person's shoulders, particularly when that person is mixed race, black, Asian, anyone marginalised. Now, in previous episodes, I mentioned examples of gatekeeping in action. The deck is stacked against us. People are actively exclude us from spaces. Then, in the most vicious example of gatekeeping, they're blaming us for not being able to access these spaces. So we're working twice as hard as a white man or woman and achieve half this success. Then, in the cruelest twist, we're bombarded by all these blame mongers. We're gaslit into believing it's all our fault. Therefore, we don't question our reality, the reality of gatekeeping and inequality affecting our careers. So, unaware, we continue running round this hamster wheel of injustice. But the third issue is the productivity myth. This idea that people can work 24/7 is bullshit. Working around the clock isn't healthy for anyone. We all need a life outside work, a social life, a romantic life, hobbies, exercise, eating properly. These are necessary. Plus, we're adults. We all have lots of other work to do, keeping our house clean, keeping ourselves clean, making meals 3 times a day, every day for eternity. All the day-to-day life admin takes time, and the poorer we are, the more we have to do ourselves. We can't afford cleaners, buying lunch every day, getting takeaways, etc. And then someone who said this very phrase to me, why don't you do all this? The person who works 16 hours a day lives with their parents, so they're saving 600 quid on rent. So we've got to worry about all of that as well. So firstly, are white men getting this message? Are they being told that they have to work 24/7 evenings and weekends to achieve success in their field? I don't know, but it's a question worth asking. And as I'm writing this, another thought comes up. When it comes to demanding labour from Black, Asian and ethnically diverse people, is it culturally ingrained from slavery and centuries of domestic servitude? As slaves, I'm British, we were expected to work long hours for white people. White owners severely punished Black people for slacking, falling behind, and they murdered many, many hundreds and thousands of slaves. Then, as free people in the UK and after slavery ended, many people of colour, particularly women, were employed as maids, servants, domestic labourers. They were working long hours for low pay. And I wonder if that social dynamic, that imbalance is retained today. Masked behind this productivity rule, the expectation that Black, Asian and ethnically diverse people should work longer hours in service of the white elite. Again, not sure, but it's a question worth throwing out. It's something worth considering. Speculation aside, there's a further layer to this productivity bullshit relevant to anyone working in equity and diversity in any field. We deal with and expose ourselves to a lot of trauma and pain. Spending so much time reading, listening, engaging with discrimination, stories that include racism, sexism, that's a lot. It's really painful to read about so many historical figures and the unfair treatment they experienced. It's painful to hear about how unbalanced society was, and, painful to experience the way it still is and hear about how it still is. It's really painful for us experiencing so much racism, sexism, and discrimination ourselves as well. So we need time to process this somehow. And as artists, we take pain and we process it into creating art. Much of the time, I think, that's how we manage it. That's how we survive. So working non-stop doesn't allow us the mental space to process that. I'll talk more about that some other time. But basically, we need time to recharge. We need breaks to process the trauma we're feeling, reclaim our sanity before the next week of sticking it to the man. So all these people telling us to just work more, just deny our reality, deny the differences in our experiences. And it's just a lack of empathy. And this can also be construed as gatekeeping, because when we're doing this, when we're kept so ill, we're burning out, attempting to work so much, we're burning out, we're unable to put as much labour hours in, then they're denying us access to the rest of society through guilt-tripping us into working 24/7, so we're not enriching our own, lives and our minds through social or cultural interaction, gaining value through that. It's quite insidious, and much of the time it may be unconscious bias, but it's nevertheless exists and presents a huge problem, and it forms part of the process which leads to inequity. And again, our white people are asked to sacrifice their own lives. So in this way, the problem is two-sided. The gatekeepers, they're piling more work on us and emotionally blackmailing us into doing more. And secondly, they're not doing that with white people, and potentially they're doing what they can to make white people's lives easier, and we can't compete with that. So it's a double whammy, on these two sides, creating double layers to keep us out. So yeah, so to sum up, everyone's placing the blame on marginalised people to take responsibility instead of recognising the systemic inequity that they're enforcing. And in addition, the white gatekeepers are pressuring marginalised people into unrealistic and dangerously unhealthy work habits, and which, as I've said, leads to burnout, ill health, decreased productivity, lack of social and cultural engagement, which is creating an imbalance between white gatekeepers and the global majority, which results in inequality. So, that is all for today. Next time, I'll discuss my own mental health through all of this and illuminate my reality, the real life impact upon health, the sacrifices I made, and my deep dark secret about classical music. So, if you are enjoying this series, please like, subscribe, share, and comment. I'd love to hear from you. If you prefer to email me privately, please do. My address is elizabeth.debrito@outlook.com. Find it in the little box below at YouTube. And because I'm a writer, first and foremost, I'm publishing this on my blog too. Check the website elizabethdebrito.com for the transcripts to read at your leisure if you prefer. Any abuse directed towards me or anyone else will not be tolerated. Anything of that nature will be deleted. That all being said, I hope you continue to enjoy this journey with me. See you next Thursday for episode 6, Your Career or Your Life. Bye.